Welcome to the Roundup. This is a special episode where I tell Dan Reddit stories, but these are from the Am I the Asshole subreddit. And Dan has never heard of this before. So I'm really excited to see how he reacts to the assholes of Reddit. Dan, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay, let's go. Am I the asshole for wanting my fiance to just pay the debt instead of living through her weird debt payback plan? I, 31, have about $67,000 in debt between college, my car, and a little bit on my credit card. I've been making my monthly payments on all of them, but it will still be many decades before I'm debt-free. My fiance, 29, is relatively debt-free. This wasn't always the case. She got a few scholarships to help with college, but did still have to take out a few loans to finish things up. She had to get a new car because the old one was cursed and was in more accidents while parked than we can count. And she did go through a manic period and almost run up her credit card in her early 20s shopping so much. However, she spent a lot of time getting her finances in order, worked multiple side gigs on top of her normal job, which I commend her for, and now is debt-free except for her mortgage, which she makes a ton of extra payments towards, and has almost $300K in investments, savings, etc. I'm very proud of her for everything she's done.
300K?
300K in investments, yeah.
Okay.
Now that we're engaged, we're planning on moving in together. She had a roommate we had to wait for the lease to end on before I could move in. And she has said before the wedding she wanted me to be debt-free. We chose a date 3 years from now since some of our family is out of the country and needs to save. And so it will be our 7th anniversary, both of our favorite number. She pulled out a spreadsheet of my debts and pointed out how if I put all of my paychecks minus maybe $200 a month for fun money into paying off my debt, I'll be debt-free by the wedding. She would cover everything else: the mortgage, food, bills, insurance, our pets, vacations, date nights, etc. We could then both aggressively save for that last bit of time for a nice honeymoon. And after that, focus a good amount of our funds on taking out the mortgage and getting my own savings up to snuff. I thought about it for a day or so and came back with this counteroffer. She pays off my debts and I pay her back in a year and a half, since I wouldn't also have to be paying interest. We would put a bigger dent in the mortgage and still stick to the timeline. She seemed unhappy with this and said she would have to think about it first. I casually mentioned it to my friends over beer to get another perspective, and they said I'm the asshole, and they would do anything to have the first 2-year offer to get debt-free, and that even if I paid her back, I'd still be taking 1/5 of her savings for a year and a half. So I'm here for judgment. Am I the asshole?
Wow, so there's a lot of information at the tail end of that story.
Yeah.
Do I think he's an asshole? I don't know, I'm kind of 50-50, right? I definitely feel like his future wife is trying to teach him a lesson.
Uh-huh.
So she's trying to get him situated with his debt. But I also, like, if you guys are planning to get married, I mean, maybe call me old school, but I'm married, right? I view it as our money, not yours and mine, right? And I think if you view it that way.
But they're not married yet.
But if you're planning on it, if you're moving together, if you're engaged, I also always have a red flag when someone's engaged and they're going to get married in 3 years.
But they're saving. So I think that's smart if they're saving to get married.
They're saving, they have $300K, she's debt-free, they have a mortgage.
But listen, that's all of her money. But if they get married, it's their money.
So everyone thinks their finances are going to be settled once they reach X point, right? Mm-hmm. What if they get married, lose a job, get into medical debt? There could be several different other scenarios, right? It's almost me thinking of like some of my friends thinking of the right time to propose. The right time is now. If you plan to spend the rest of your life together. It's now, and it's the combination of two, right? And that's where I feel like I don't think he is an asshole. I think he's an asshole to say, hey, just let's take your money and pay it off, and then I pay
That's
you
what
back,
he's asking
right?
her to do. Like, take 1/5 of her savings and pay off my debt. What if they don't get married?
Well,
Where's the guarantee that he's gonna pay her back?
So I guess why are they waiting 3 years to get married?
Because they're saving, remember? Because her parents and her family is out. Their family is out, so they have to save also to come.
She has $300K. I mean, there's
in
probably
investments, not
there's
just savings.
probably certain expectations of what the wedding needs to be, or where it needs to go, or how much they're going to spend on that. Because it definitely sounds like his future wife is very financially focused, which is great, but then probably has a lot of expectations based off of what he shared, or his side of the story, right? I don't think she should just pay the debt up front, but I also feel like, hey, instead of you sacrificing your entire budget, let's figure out how we can both tackle this.
No, but she's doing that. She said that you can have 2 years to just focus on your debt and pay it off, and I'll do the mortgage, food, bills, insurance, our pets, vacations, date nights. So she is doing all of that
It's
for
like a
him
temporary sugar mama. In a
for
way.
2 years.
Yeah, I get it.
You don't think he's an asshole?
I don't think he's an asshole. I don't. I think there's a middle compromise, and guess what? If you're gonna get married, there's always gonna be compromises with anyone you have a lifetime relationship with, right? So I don't think he's an asshole. I think there's definitely more discussion to have. I think communication is key here, especially with finances and keeping
Okay,
things
Dr.
honest.
Oz. Okay, let's see what Reddit has to say. So, Reddit said, you're the asshole. You're an entitled asshole for not accepting her very generous offer and expecting her to do even more. Your counter offer is laughable, and she would be an idiot if she agreed to it. What do you say to that?
They have some good points. A little bit aggressive. I mean, it's kind of internet banter, right? But it doesn't change my thought process. She had one side of the story, he had another, or an offer, right? Both sound appealing, and at the end of the day, I guess he needs to think of both of their income as theirs, because she is providing a pretty good offer, right? So
She is. I think she was being very generous with him.
I don't think she would be a fool for trying to pay it off. And that's just
But
one
they're
person's
not
opinion.
married yet. And like, you loan somebody $67K. It's not $6,000, it's $67,000 from her savings.
Well, why wouldn't they just get married tomorrow, or in 6 months have a smaller wedding and then have a bigger celebration in 3 years?
No, they're waiting for their families to save so they can come, because they're out of the country. They're waiting for the family so they can have the family around for the wedding.
Okay.
They're not.
I still
saving
think
for
there's
the
tax
wedding.
advantages to save on your taxes if you're married and filing jointly, which can help them pay off that debt.
We're
even
not
faster.
talking about the entire situation. We're only talking about this one question.
You asked for my opinion, that's it.
Okay, he doesn't think this man is an asshole. But let's read some more comments. Chances he would bail right after she pays his debts off. High or very high? What do we think? I think very high. You do something like that for a man, he'll probably leave you.
For a man, for a woman, for really anyone, yes, they can leave. But I'm assuming they've probably been together for a few years. They know each other. They're moving in together. I mean, anything can happen. And I guess as I'm hearing this, maybe giving $60K towards paying off that debt isn't the smartest move for her. But again, just get married and then have a larger celebration. But that's my process. I know there's different cultures and whatnot, and family has to be involved in that. But at least here in America, like that's normal.
Other comments. He would say, she's always lording it over my head that I need to make my monthly payments, or doesn't understand why I skipped it. We will be married soon, and our money should be exactly that, our money. So why should I pay myself back or other bullshit nonsense? I think Reddit is just very untrustworthy of people. And Dan has never, this is his first time even finding out what am I the asshole is. So that's why he's like, okay, maybe he's really nuanced in his approach. I'm not. I think this dude is an asshole.
I'm also married, and Khadija is not. So
and
she
you would
doesn't
never
understand.
do that to somebody. So like, you don't understand. But there are people who would just like take 67K and run. You know what I mean? So like, if you're watching this, don't give him the money. Don't give him the 67K. Your offer was already very generous. 2 years of you paying all of his bills. Don't give him 67K. And that's it for our first story. All right, next story. This one, it has an update. So Reddit loves an update. Okay, so am I the asshole for refusing to forgive a debt that will cost my sister a house? Just off the top of my head, yes. But let's read it. Original post. My mother died about 2 months ago. She didn't leave behind much other than a paid house worth about 180K.
Not much?
And a little money in
there's
the
plenty of people that don't get anything. If not, they get debt.
Okay. And a little money in the bank. We don't know how much money. Mom announced a couple of years ago that she intended to leave her a house to my sister, Sarah, who takes care of her severely disabled son full time. Mom said that she wanted to make sure they had a roof over their heads and the rest of her kids could make it on their own. Sarah does struggle a lot and has said many times that she wouldn't have been able to make it without Mom. When Mom died, she had some bills outstanding, but her biggest debt was that she owed me $37,000. I had loaned her the money so that she could fix her plumbing and septic system, as well as making the house more handicapped friendly for Sarah and Jeremy. I think Jeremy is the son. Mom had been paying me back every month. I have paperwork proving the money is owed to me. Here is the problem. If I file a claim against her estate like any other creditor would do, my brother John, Mom's executor, will have no choice but to pay it. But to do so, he will have to sell the house since there isn't money in the estate to pay it any other way, which means that Sarah and Jeremy will have to find a different place to live. I know Mom wanted Sarah to have the house. There is also the issue that Mom's will said Sarah got the house, but any money in the estate would be split evenly between the four of us.
This has asshole smell all over it.
So technically, we think that means Sarah wouldn't actually get anything. John is talking to a lawyer to make sure he's reading that right. Sarah is also concerned that if she did get a large amount of money, John and I have both said we would give her whatever we got from the house if it does get sold. That could interfere with the help she gets from the government. Okay, this is big. John and Sarah are both pushing me not to file a claim against the estate. But if I don't, then the loan basically goes away. Sarah has said that she will pay it back to me and would even sign a new loan. The trouble is that I don't believe her. She has borrowed money before and never paid it back. Not because she doesn't want to, but because she can't afford to. She struggled with money living with Mom, so it is going to be even worse for her without Mom paying her bills in the house as well. If I don't file a claim, I will be out $37,000, and that is far more than I want to hand over as a gift, even to my sister. I've told John and Sarah that I'm officially filing a claim on Monday morning. They are both calling me a greedy asshole and telling me that I'm ignoring what Mom wanted. I think it's unreasonable to expect me to just forget $37,000. Am I the asshole? Before you even say anything, why would you loan money to a family member when you know they can't pay you back? $37,000, are you insane? Go.
Yes, he's a greedy asshole. She's a greedy asshole, yeah. I'm sorry. Especially if she's taking care of other family members with disabilities, right? Which is a tough situation at its best. And then And then, like, you have $37,000 to give somebody. Like, I can understand, like, hey, I borrowed you $1,000. Hey, I borrowed you $2,000. Like, okay, I'm not going to give you $3,000, but $37,000 is a lot of cash to somebody, right? Obviously, you could afford it. Obviously, you kind of have to take
Would you ever loan
your siblings' word, right?
Would you ever loan money?
There's been plenty of times we've loaned each other money, right?
But like $37,000.
We never loaned that much, but if Nick came to me and I had $37,000,
we didn't have that much.
Yeah, we didn't have that much. I couldn't even comprehend that much for a very, very long time in my life. But like, if it was, hey, this is for my family. I don't. Money's not like the be all.
Okay, but what if this was you? You loaned your brother $37,000, right? And then your mother left your brother. Your mother left your brother a house, and you could do the similar. Would you do that? Would you do something like this to your own brother?
Would I loan him the money?
No. Would you do this entire like?
No.
Exactly.
Absolutely
okay.
not. Like, I would take his word to say, hey, all right, let's set up another agreement and figure this out. Now, if he, at the end kind of swindles me or whatnot and doesn't want to pay me back, I'll just take it as a loss, right? Like, it's family. But again, I don't think you just wrote a check for $30,000. You continued to give money, and then your mom was paying you back because, you're her loving child, and she just wants to keep the family, probably tamed instead of up in flames.
And
because
also
of
the
some money.
severely disabled son.
Yeah. So just like, I don't know.
So she's just going to make them homeless. If she files a claim, she'll make them homeless.
I mean, there's obviously equity in the house and splitting that and whatnot.
But then she won't get any help from the government. Government assistance, you only have to make to a certain point to get government assistance. But if you don't make to that certain point, you don't.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, this person's a complete asshole.
Absolutely.
Figure out the rest. If not, if you had the ability to borrow $37,000, you just cut it as a loss, and then don't borrow them any more money, right?
Exactly. This is what the comments said, and then we'll go to the update. So, you are the assholes for a few reasons here.
I finally agree with this one.
Okay. You refuse to wait for your brother, the executor, to talk to an attorney, which is literally happening later in the week. Several people have made outstanding points, like getting a new contract or a lien against the house. You absolutely will not hear out a single word of it. Just repeatedly saying she will not pay and I'll never see the money. Why did you lend it to her? That's where contracts and liens come in. They are literally there to protect you. Number 3, you state you are quite financially stable right now. She had the ability to lend $37,000 and that you do not need this money right this second, but you're also willing to help find any workarounds for your sister and her multiple children. You're happy to make her homeless. Number 4, you claim that you and John are willing to give her your share, but are unsure if the other sibling will.
And I'm all for borrowing money to relatives when I have it and keeping them honest, right? Like, if you you have to pay me back. I'm not just a donator here, right? And then also having them, build some type of trust and structure, especially if you're giving financial trust to a family member. So I'm right on point here in terms of what this responder is saying.
And reason number 5, you are willing to make your sister and her children homeless over money that you are not in dire need. She's gonna make them homeless. Can you believe? Okay, let's read the update.
Yeah.
I just spit out. I'm so mad. Okay, let's read the update. Okay, this is the update. I officially submitted the paperwork to John to get payment for the debt. However, I decided that would forgive 1/4 of the debt. So instead of claiming $37,000, I'm claiming $27,750.
Oh, thank you. It still seems like a problem.
I told my siblings that I would forgive 1/4, and if it keeps the house for Sarah is important to them, then they each need to come up with the same. So far, they are saying they will not contribute. I get this. John and I spoke with the lawyer, and we were wrong about how any cash from the sale of the house would be dispersed. First, any liquid assets have to be used to cover debts. Then if assets need to be liquidated, then whoever was supposed to get that assets get whatever proceeds are left after paying debts. So no matter what my siblings do, Sarah will get the rest of the money if the house is sold. Okay, this is good. This is good. This is good. The lawyer also pointed out the same thing many people here did, that giving Sarah the money could affect her benefits. Instead, he suggested she turn down the inheritance in favor of placing the money into a special needs trust for her son. Sarah will be talking to the lawyer on her options and exactly what that means. Sarah is attempting to get a loan using the house as collateral. Not all the paperwork is in order yet, exactly how much will be left in the estate after all debts are paid. And we are probably looking at needing to get a professional appraisal of the home first. One person at the bank talked to her and said that with her credit score and income, she doubts she would be approved, but that she should process the application once Sarah gets all the data. So this is an end. I don't know how I feel about this. How do you feel about this?
Although like one sibling borrowed $37,000 to another, I still feel like they're like, you know, a big life change happened. They lost one of their parent, their mother, right? There's just so much conflict, right? And people put so much weight on finances, which I know they're a very important part of life. But just like sometimes you gotta give more than you get, right? And I'm a big believer of that. There's a lot of moving pieces here, and probably family drama stacked on top of that. So I don't know. I just figure out what works best so everyone can live comfortably instead of just one person getting back what they're owed.
He won't say it, but I'll say it. The OP is an asshole.
Yeah.
You're an asshole, sir, or whoever you are. You didn't specify what your gender was, but you're an asshole. And that's it. That's all I have to say for this story. Am I the asshole for not wanting to pay?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. I was the asshole there.
Am I the asshole for not wanting to pay for my fiance's college debts? I, 30 male, have always been super careful with my own money. For most of my professional life, I earned a little more than a minimum wage and always kept my costs and lifestyle on the low. I've been working since 16 years old and never got a single debt on my name, something I'm proud of. This past year, I got a very good job and I've been able to save a lot of money so I can finally buy my own house and leave rent.
He's really selling himself.
Yes. I've been dating her, 23 female, for 2 years.
23 female?
Yeah, and he's
That's how you
30 years
describe your
old.
future wife? Okay.
No, that's how you do it in Reddit. So like you specify your age and your gender.
Okay,
Yeah.
just to get an idea.
Just to get a picture. 23 female for 2 years, and I met her in one of my jobs at a college. She was a student there. Because of financial problems on her family, she had to quit college, leaving some debt behind. Her parents used to pay for her college. I've been living with her for 1 year, and I pay everything: food, rent, etc.
Sugar daddy.
Why do you say that?
I mean, if you pay all the bills.
They're dating. Why do you always say that?
I mean, would you expect your significant other to take care of all of the bills?
No, but it would be nice.
Okay. I mean, like, I get it if someone's taking care of children or the home or something along those lines. But I mean, still.
Okay, moving on. After moving together, I feel like her parents kind of expect me to pay for everything related to her. Her father once asked me why I didn't put her back on college to finish her course, and I told him very politely that I couldn't afford it since it was more than 50% of my monthly income and I had rent, food, and everything else to pay for. We got zero help from them.
It sounds like his parents are very old school. I mean, just from that,
Okay.
like assuming the guy pays for everything, which I mean, on the dad's part or on the future father-in-law's part.
I don't know how anybody could do that, but
Yeah,
moving
I know,
on, we have like a little bit left. Today, she received an email from this college saying they will pass her debts along to justice and staff, and she could negotiate. She called me and said, I have something serious to ask. I need you to pay my debt. I said I don't want to cause this a debt her parents made, not me. Also, her debt is almost 50% of everything I saved this past year. It's a huge chunk of my savings. She's silent all day after that. Am I the asshole here?
I don't think he's the asshole. I mean, thankfully they share like their age, right? 23.
And he's 30, so you have to keep that in mind. So like that's a huge difference in ages, by the way. If you're 23, you're basically 19, is how I think.
What?
If you're 23, you're basically, you're not a grown-up.
It's kind of the age gap where it just starts to get a little weird because I feel like
30 years old.
It could be like completely different generations at that point. But I mean, nonetheless, it's not too crazy.
I also don't like the fact that her dad told him that you should just pay for her college. He's not her dad, you are.
Well, in this story, it seems like he's just selling himself. He's like, I'm so good with my money. I paid everything, right? Then her dad comes to me, why don't you pay for her? And then she calls me and says, hey, can you pay off my debt? I mean, if she approached it that way, then there's a problem. But like, I think there's more to that story because it just seems like he's the good guy and she's the bad guy.
Okay, but this is the story that we do have.
I know, but I'm trying to think of the scenario if I was in his shoes or even her shoes.
He's
right?
too good for Reddit. He's too good for Reddit. Is what I would be like, asshole. You're not the asshole. That's what I would be doing.
So you're not the asshole, is what you think?
I think he isn't the asshole. I don't think he should be responsible for another person's finances, and he's already paying for everything, like rent.
Well, back to our first disagreement. Anyone else's finances, unless you're getting married, right? So like that's the whole thing, right? If you're getting married, if you're planning on getting married, like,
but they're not.
That should be a combination, figuring out that together. But if your spouse is coming to you and saying, "Hey, you need to pay this off," then that's a whole different other story of like just the.
But they're not getting married. They're just dating.
They said they were engaged. No.
Did they?
Yes.
No.
I thought you said they were engaged.
I don't think they're engaged.
He said fiance.
No. I've been dating her.
Okay. Well.
Now I'm confused.
That was the other story.
Okay.
They're not. They're literally just dating.
I swear I heard fiance. But anyways,
Did you
if they're
hear
dating, hell no, right? No, definitely not.
Okay, let's read what Reddit has to say. Not the asshole. Run, dude. She's 23 and old enough to know how bills work. Run.
Yeah.
Another one. I feel like he accidentally adopted her.
See, it's because of that age gap.
And he's also paying for everything. And why is he paying for everything? He doesn't have a significant other yet. He has a leech.
Leech approved. That's for sure.
Okay, and we have edits too. Somebody's calling him the asshole. He wants the compliance of a younger woman, but the financial independence of an older woman. OP is a silly sausage.
Compliance of what?
Compliance.
But like, what is she complying, or he wants her to comply to what?
Like like younger women, older men. They're like younger women are more compliant. No. This is like how society works.
The commenter is an asshole.
Yeah, the commenter's an asshole. Yeah.
This is Reddit.
Stirring up
it's
the pot.
full of assholes. It also sounds like they're in a very different phase of their lives. She's still trying to work out what she's going to do, doesn't have a plan or a job. She's 23 years old. Whereas he's paid off his debts and is trying to build a stable base for his future. They need to be on the same page if they want this relationship to succeed, or they need to be with people with the same goals and commitment and attitudes towards financial responsibility.
Next for both of them.
We have edits. First edit. I appreciate all your answers. Guess it's time to have the talk with her and put all the cards on the table if we are really to get a future together. So they're communicating. That's the first edit. Edit 2. We had a talk last night and she was very understanding that I couldn't and shouldn't pay the debt. She will contact her father to figure things out because she said it was his idea and he didn't get through on the payments. She's jobless right now, but she promised she would look for one
gets better and better.
right away. She's jobless.
I mean, she's 23, right? So, I mean, it's okay to be jobless at really any age, but like obviously getting a job afterwards is important. But it seems like I don't know, it just seems like now she's understanding, and before she says, hey, pay my debt off, like, I don't know where expectations are for...
I mean, who wouldn't? He's paying for everything. You're letting this woman be in your house,
Yeah.
23, without a job.
Not the asshole.
Not the asshole, but like, do better. You're 30 years old, dating a 23-year-old. Do better. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, do you want to do another story?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're back!
I already read this, and I am already very heated. So I'm gonna read this again for you. Am I the asshole for leaving my family in debt? So for backstory, me, 21 male, and my brother, 22 male, have been paying our family a monthly sum of $250 each to help with bills, as both of our parents work minimum wage jobs, and after bills and taxes, we do not have much money left to be spending on other items. So both of them pay their family $500 every month. My
Well, combined 500, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
My sister, 11 female, is the youngest, and she is spoiled constantly with everything that she wants when she wants it. My parents even got another credit card just to help pay for the crazy amount of things she wants. About 2 months ago, my parents had to not eat food for 2 days to be able to pay for my sister's next big purchase. If you were guessing, what do you think what would you guess the big purchase was? 11 years old.
I mean, I just had a daughter, but I don't know exactly what 11-year-old girls want, but...
An Apple product
Okay.
is what she wanted.
A new phone?
Yes. 11 years old. I didn't get a first phone till I was 19.
Before you even go on with this story, you need a conversation with your sister. You need to have that conversation.
Let's listen. She's 11.
11, 12, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, you need to still have that conversation of, no, you're not getting this.
But the parents, never mind. Let's continue and then we can talk about this.
Or,
My sister is one of them people where if someone has something good, she has to have something better. My sister had the iPhone 11, but then her friend upgraded to the 13. So she just had to get that 14 the next day. She's 11 years old. Play with Peppa Pig or something.
Okay, so
what are you doing with an iPhone?
I guess who has a soft spot for the daughters? Probably the
parents.
dad. It's probably the dad, usually in that
You're
scenario.
bringing your own biases again.
No, but like usually, like, you know, it's. I mean, I don't want to say daddy's girl or anything, but it's that scenario, right? So there's a kind of like obviously both of the older sons by a decade have somewhat of a financial responsibility and care about their family somewhat because they're giving them $500 a month to cover these additional
Because they
expenses.
weren't responsible enough. That is why the kids have to take care of their parents.
I'm so familiar with having parents that weren't financially responsible, which kind of kicked myself into gear of understanding that, right? I mean, some of the things that my brother and I accomplished was managing some of those bills. And I mean, in one way, at some point, not allowing them to open up another credit card. But, you know, I think our parents, or our mom, our single mom, appreciated that we like had some more financial education around that because we cared about it. But go on.
Okay. Recently, me and my brother had a huge fight with our parents, which ended up with us getting kicked out. About a week ago, my family and I were sat down for dinner when my dad started talking about their debt from buying my sister all her new stuff. It turns out that they recently got their credit card statement and they are in $1,500 of credit card debt across 2 credit cards. They had the audacity to tell me and my brother to help pay off the debt, and we needed to step up and pay for things around here. We both began to argue with them as it was not our fault. They gave our entitled sister everything and they did not give us anything. I think I forgot to mention that I have not asked my parents for anything for about a year now, and neither has my brother. Well, anyway, I think you can already guess that me and my brother obviously refused, and within the next 24 hours, we were given an ultimatum to move out, or else all our stuff would be sold. Me and my brother were glad, and we decided to crash with friends for the next few days until we get our next paycheck and can afford an apartment. Before we left, we blocked our parents on everything, and we have been receiving numerous text messages from relatives telling us we are being selfish and we need to apologize to our parents. Yeah. So I'm guessing they told everyone a crazy lie, making us seem like selfish and them like the victims.
So they're 21, 22, right? Something close to that, right? And they're giving their parents $250 a month. I mean, realistically, it's rent. Like, in a way, you're helping out with the bills. So whether or not they spoil the daughter, which there's definitely some daddy's or mommy's girl syndrome going on in this family, right? I would just say, okay, I will pay you $250 a month. That is all I can afford, right? And this is going to be my rent to support some of the bills in the household. When I heard minimum wage and I hear $1,500, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're earning minimum wage, that could be a lifetime to pay off. So I definitely understand that. But I would definitely just have a conversation with my parents saying, all right, you'll get the $250 because it's going to be a lot less than renting most apartments in most areas, and say, this is going to be my rent to you, right? And
why are these guys still, or these 220-somethings still living at home?
I mean,
we're not done with the story.
$250 isn't a lot, and they're already paying it. So I think they should pay more. The parents should charge them rent. Market.
Well, let's finish the story.
Yeah.
Last night, I remember that me and my brother's $250 would be sent to them the next morning, so we quickly canceled it and texted them about it and blocked them again. This morning, we were told by our grandmother that the bank was going to probably end up repossessing their house, as our $500 was paying over 50% of their mortgage. I've been thinking about it all day and feel quite guilty, so I've come here to ask, am I the asshole?
I want to say he is the asshole.
I want to say he's not.
I want to say he is the asshole because they're 21, 22 years old. They're adults, right? They could be living somewhere else if they wanted to, or they have the capabilities. They're paying technically a rent. I would probably express my opinion to my parents saying, hey, I'm giving you this $250. You're buying shit we don't need. And but I would only give my advice to them and say, hey, this is all I can afford. This is all I'm going to give you, and also develop my own financial plan to get out of there, and then give them a heads up saying, hey, I'm moving out in the next 3 months. Figure out your finances, right? So that's how I would approach
But they weren't mad about the $250. They were already doing the $250, so they were paying rent, which was 50% of the mortgage. They got mad about spoiling the younger sister with things she doesn't need. Like which 11-year-old needs an iPhone 13?
No 11-year-old needs an iPhone 13.
Exactly.
No 11-year-old needs really
and
a
she
cell phone.
already had an iPhone 11.
I mean, 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever the iPhone is, you're not.
But they're in debt because of the little sister and her demand. I feel like they're really trying to pain the little sister. She's 11 years old. She's a child.
Are the older siblings jealous of the little sister?
I think so, because remember, they said like they didn't give us anything, but they're giving her everything.
I actually see that a lot with like larger age gaps, like especially if there's like almost 10 years apart, like maybe they never gave the love to their first kid or two, and then all of a sudden they got another kid 10 years later, and they're like, oh, we're gonna spoil this kid. I've definitely seen that before.
I feel like they have like a very traditional dynamic where the children take care of the parents, and these two are guys, and the girl is a girl. So like I feel like it's a very traditional family situation that they've got going on.
I don't know. I would pay the $250. I would stay at home. I would just
No, but they're making them pay more than $250. Is the whole situation that they're mad about.
So yeah, I guess they asked to cough it up, right? But I don't know. It still seems very affordable compared to living in your own place.
Let's see what Reddit has to say. Reddit said, not the asshole. Time to sell sister's pricey products to help fix at least some of the debt. She'll survive it. Reddit hates children, by the way. They hate children. Every single story about children, they're like, it's a child. Unless your worried relatives step up and help them, and right downhill can resume.
So based on Reddit, does Reddit hate the children or does Reddit hate how the children are
Reddit
raised?
is just like the pessimistic side of the internet.
But they don't know how the child was raised. Like before you're really like, I don't know, 16, like it's really based off of how your parents treat you.
I agree.
The responsibility they give you.
The parents could just say no. The parents could just be like, we're not getting you an
Yeah, I mean, I've
iPhone.
had friends that I considered they were spoiled. I've also had friends that have never crossed a busy street and they were in high school, and that blew my mind too, right? But again, you can't hate a child because they're only figuring their own shit out. And I think most children try to manipulate, right? Manipulate their parents into getting what they want, right? So they don't understand the consequences.
You just had a kid, you had a daughter, don't let the daughter manipulate you. Another person said, not the asshole, you didn't leave your family in debt, your parents did. It's not your responsibility to manage their finances or fund their irresponsible spending. And I agree with this. I completely agree with this. It's not their responsibility to do anything. But yeah, this one said, not the asshole, but Dan said that they're assholes. So I think they're not assholes. Okay, this one, I don't even know how someone, okay, let's read it. Am I the asshole for refusing to help my wife with managing her debt? Okay, me, John, 38 male, and wife Jane, 42 female, not real names, have been married for 18 years. Jane got a credit card and keeps forgetting to pay it. I refuse to pay it because I am tired of her getting her credit cards and then me having to monitor / pay them. For context,
First, before you continue to go,
Okay.
it seems like their finances are separate, right? It definitely seems, unless she's going around his back to, take out these credit cards. And I hate to sound old school, but like if you're planning to spend the rest of your life with someone, especially, how long were they married?
continue. Let me continue and you'll see why let me continue.
Go ahead.
For context, before marriage, Jane spent freely and ran up a lot of debt, several $1,000s. Jane is a very hard worker, like I am, and we've both worked since we were 15 years old. I save my money, she spends hers, and then some, so the debt. When we decided to get married, money became an issue. Jane would buy a lot of frivolous items and run up her debt. It got so bad we had a huge fight in the middle of a store. I loved her, so I used all my teenage savings to pay off her debt. Since then, we've been debt-free except for cars and house. This has been largely due to me. Jane hates finances and doesn't care about them. Due to her indifference, I control all bank accounts, credit cards, etc., even stuff she had before we were married. Our finances work like this. I tell her when we have money and she spends whatever she wants. I say when we don't have money and she stops. But I know everything she buys. I don't care what she gets, but Jane knows I check the credit card statements. I'm looking for fraud. Occasionally, I'll ask her about a purchase if it looks odd, but I don't question what she gets. This worked for years. About a decade ago, a coworker of mine, Rebecca, was loudly complaining to her friends that she has to hide money from her husband. I was shocked to hear all of the women in our office respond saying they do the same. Some of them said even their mothers taught them to hide money because men are so controlling. That night, I asked my wife if she felt the same way about me. She did, and she wasn't hiding money. We decided she should have her own bank account with money regularly put in it that I would have no say or control over. She offered me the same, but I declined. I can easily hide money from her because she refuses to pay attention to her finances. She has all of the information to access our accounts, and many times I've tried to tell her that I'm doing what I'm doing with our money, but she refuses to care. I want her to know in case something happens to me, but she can't be bothered. A couple of years ago, she started engaging in an odd behavior of hers. opening up store credit cards. I wouldn't care, except I have to monitor them and pay them off. And she uses them randomly, and I don't always know when. I have to monitor them so I can figure out when to pay them and make sure there's no fraud. I asked her to stop getting store credit cards, but she hasn't. The last one she opened put me over the edge. I told her I refuse to pay it off, monitor it, or help her with it. She has had it for a month now and still hasn't figured out how to pay it. I reminded her once and she tried to pay it but couldn't figure out how to connect it to our bank account and gave up. She asked me to do it for her and I said no. Am I the asshole for refusing to help my wife with managing her debt? What do you think?
I mean, you're an asshole for not just helping her connect the bank account, but then also, is she just going to be funneling the money you're trying to manage to this account so it could be paid, and she goes on with it? It sounds like she needs some therapy.
She's 42 years old.
But that doesn't mean anything.
But she's 42 years old.
Yeah,
how do you
okay.
not know when your bills are due?
A bad habit can continue for a lifetime.
That's true, and they were together for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, 18 years, right?
Mm-hmm. They've been married for 18 years.
I don't know. I'd be pissed if my wife opened up a credit card without telling me. But I'm more of the manager, right? But there's a little bit more of an agreement of what our goals are financially compared to this story.
Personally, I think if you're married, you should sit down with your spouse once a month and just talk about your budget, where you were last month.
I think 18 years together, you need a third party to communicate with one another, because you'll end up ignoring what that person's really trying to communicate with until someone else says it, right?
I think she's just lazy.
It's kind of like that mentality of like, let me speak to the manager. And sometimes the manager says the exact same thing to the customer, but then they feel better because it's another perspective, right? And this is where like marriage counseling, I mean, finances is a big part of marriage, right?
I mean, I just think in general, this wife is the asshole.
Literally.
Yeah, the wife's definitely the asshole.
She's 42 years old.
And she's opening up credit cards just randomly?
Store credit cards.
But is the question if this guy's the asshole because
For
he
not
won't help?
refusing, yeah.
No.
He's not an asshole, right?
I mean, like, I feel, but like, after I think about like, oh, let's connect our bank to this card, so like, you're trying to do all the right moves, right, from what we know.
I don't think she knows the concept of money. I don't think she even knows what money is.
And technically, he can probably prevent her from opening these new cards if he locked her credit file.
That wouldn't be
He's not doing that, right? Because I mean,
But
that's
that is so
over-intrusive.
controlling.
That is
I mean,
controlling.
he's already controlling everything.
He is. Because she doesn't want to.
She doesn't want to control it.
Controlling over bad decisions.
This is what Reddit has to say. You're not the asshole, but this is an untenable situation. How and why have you indulged this level of fiscal immaturity for 18 years? You are married to a 42-year-old child who does not know how to pay a credit card bill. You need marriage counseling and financial counseling for her now.
You need a third perspective, not family, to tell your wife to be more responsible, to figure out the goals, to find that out. I mean, communication is so important. Obviously, there's other factors, but I just feel like 18 years of like being together, and this is still an issue. This has been an issue, obviously, for 18 years.
No, things worked fine right up.
But
about
he
a few
paid off
years
some
ago.
debt earlier
Yeah,
on,
he
right?
had to pay
So
off a lot
she
of her
already
debt.
had, or she was already being irresponsible, right? So, I mean, you need a third party to kind of talk that through and figure it out and help his wife to get like a little bit more financial responsibility or set some type of goal for her, right?
I also think that they have a very like traditional dynamic where she takes care of all of the house chores, because we didn't hear that she had a job or not. I think she takes care of all of the house chores and he does all of the, and that's the way it worked for so many years for so many people. But I feel like women need to be more financially responsible and know about their finances. So if you're watching this and you don't know anything about your finances, please sit down and learn.
I mean, I wouldn't even call that old school, though. I feel like there's so many moms out there that would be like, we're eating rice and beans. Like, they're setting up the house, they're setting up the household or whatnot.
Yeah, that's true.
Even if you consider it old school, right? This lady's just being irresponsible. She's being childish, as one of the comments said.
Another person said, you've been babying and enabling her bad financial habits for 18 years. Suddenly, you're expecting her to manage her finances and debt on her own. It is definitely not your responsibility to parent a 42-year-old, and you've tried your best to manage her finances for her, not the asshole, but as the saying goes, give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you'll feed him for a lifetime.
Yeah, I get it, right? And he's coming to Reddit for a third-party opinion.
Yeah.
Spend some of that money to go talk to someone with your wife, right? He's obviously looking for a different perspective.
Yeah. Don't tell her, okay, pay your debt. Show her the process of it. She's confused. She does.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, and even what we do here at Change, it's like finances is very.
That's our plug right there.
Check out the Change app.
Check out the Change app.
Finances is a very emotional game. It brings you happiness, it brings you sadness, it brings you stress. I mean, almost every emotion you could possibly feel, finances do that, and that's why it's important. But communication and dealing with this for 18 years, like, he's being irresponsible.
He is. He's the asshole for setting up this entire process and enabling her for 18 years. And she's the asshole for never caring about her finances. Because he did say, what if something happens to me? What is she going to do then? What is she going to do? Be homeless in about 2 months because she forgot to pay the rent.
I mean, surprisingly, a lot of people still make it in life with a lot of debt and continue to make it. But it's not a fun life. That's
but
for
going
sure.
through life with a lot of debt is not something you should be doing. So if you don't do that, basically, is what we're trying to say. And that's it for the first installment of the Roundup Reddit stories. We'll do more of these. Check out the next episode. Bye.
And if you have any of your own stories to share, send us a note.
My email is in the description below.